What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back. So I've been using the iPhone XR for a couple of days now and I feel that this is the iPhone that offers the best value if you're looking to buy an iPhone in 2018 and probably a big part of 2019. So with this phone we get the same processor that we have in the iPhone XS, we get the same front and rear cameras, we get the same Face ID, we get wireless charging, and we also get a phone that looks and feels very premium, not to mention that you can buy this phone in a bunch of colors, and that's not something that usually happens with a lot of phones. Now for $750 this isn't exactly cheap, but I guess it really depends who you are asking, because for about $750 you can buy, I don't know, 4 Xiaomi Redmi Note 6 Pros, so definitely a lot of phones that you can buy for the price of this one. But with this one we get something that we don't usually get with other phones, and that is that Apple logo on the back. So people are gonna buy it because this is an iPhone. I feel that this phone was mostly intended for those people upgrading from the iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8, because with this one they're gonna get a smaller phone but with a bigger screen, and they're not gonna notice the lower screen resolution or those bigger bezels around the screen. Because if you're coming from an iPhone 10, well, the bezels around this screen are definitely bigger. Now, I'm not sure why the bezels around the screen are so big and ugly, because we've seen a lot of budget phones under $200 that have way smaller bezels around the screen, and they have the same IPS LCD screens, so I'm pretty sure that Apple could have done a better job at making those bezels a bit smaller. The screen resolution is also pretty low for 2018, so the screen resolution is somewhere around 820p, and most budget phones these days actually have a 1080p screen. And I'm not saying that this is a bad screen, because it's not. It's a screen that gets super bright, and it's actually way brighter than the screen that I have on my Pixel 3 XL, and that phone is more expensive. We get super vibrant colors, and the colors actually look better than the colors on my Pixel 3 XL. The viewing angles aren't crazy good. I mean, it really depends how you're looking at the phone. You may notice the colors shifting a bit if you're not looking straight at the device. And the resolution is decent enough for certain things. So if you're just scrolling through your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed or watching some YouTube videos, the resolution is good enough. But me personally, I notice that the screen isn't as sharp whenever I'm reading text on the screen. So if you're reading news or something like that, you will definitely notice that the screen isn't as sharp because the letters aren't as sharp. Now, keep in mind, I'm used to using other devices with a much higher screen resolution, so probably that's why. So if you're coming from like an iPhone 7 or an iPhone 8, you're probably not gonna notice any difference. And talking about watching videos, and I'm mostly referring to YouTube videos, well, the maximum resolution that you can select is 1080p, and initially I thought that the maximum resolution would be 720p, so I'm happy to see that we can actually watch videos at a somewhat higher resolution. Now, of course, the notch is gonna be in your way if you zoom in, so you can take full advantage of that screen, so the screen is not exactly all yours. And the speakers on this phone sound extremely good as well. So these are probably the same speakers that we have on the iPhone XS. So the speakers sound really good. Another thing that's really good on this phone is the battery life, and that probably has to do with the lower screen resolution. So this one you can kind of get 2 days on one charge, which is quite impressive considering that we have a 6.1 inches screen. As I mentioned earlier, this phone supports wireless charging, so you can just place this on a wireless charger, and it also supports fast charging, but unfortunately in the box you're not gonna get a fast charger. You get that charger that you got about 12 years ago. So that's the downside, it doesn't come with a fast charger, but if you do buy a fast charger for it, you can charge it very quickly. One downside for the iPhone XR is the fact that we don't get the second camera on the back, and that means that you're not going to be able to take optical zoom pictures, and you're not going to be able to use the second lens for portrait mode pictures. So the portrait mode pictures are software generated, and the bokeh effect looks a bit different than it looked on the iPhone XS. Now, the edge detection isn't perfect either, so there are a lot of instances where the phone will actually cut the head of a person or something like that, or the hair or something like that, and I feel that the iPhone XS would have done a somewhat better job in those situations. And I've actually done a comparison video between this phone and the Google Pixel 3 XL, and I'm going to leave a link in the video's description or the top right corner, and in there you can check out a bunch of portrait mode pictures and a lot of other pictures that I took with the rear and the front cameras. Another downside would be the fact that you cannot take portrait mode pictures for pets or objects, so you can only do portrait mode pictures for humans, but I guess that could change in a future software update. But if you don't care that much for portrait mode pictures and you just take regular pictures, the pictures turn out great, and also the video recordings from this device. So I've done 4K at 30 frames per second, but you can also do 4K at 60 frames per second, even though that resolution you don't exactly get image stabilization. But for 4K at 30 frames per second, the phone does really well. Since we have the same processor as on the iPhone XS, the performance is also very good and just as good as on the iPhone XS. And if you look at the benchmark results for this device, well, the scores are higher than any other Android device out there. And of course, opening apps and using any apps works really good. Now you will notice that some apps will have to reload because we only have 3 gigs of RAM on this device. So if you keep a bunch of apps running in the background, you may see some apps reloading, but it doesn't happen very often, but it happens a bit more than it would happen on the iPhone XS. So to quickly conclude this video, the phone looks and feels great, the performance is just as good as it is on the iPhone XS, the battery life on this device is better, the cameras, the front and rear cameras are just as good as on the iPhone XS, and the only thing I don't exactly appreciate about this phone is the screen and the bezels around the screen. If they would have used another screen with a higher resolution, even if it would have been like an IPS screen, I would have been happier, because whenever you're reading something, you can definitely tell that the text isn't as crisp as normal. But other than that, the phone is pretty awesome. And once again, for $750 for brand new iPhone with the latest processor, I think it's pretty good for an iPhone. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.